Hello, my friends. Grant Tino here, aka Grant Godfrey. Welcome to the Godcast. Hey, I want to ask you, are you living right now in scarcity thinking or in abundance thinking? In other words, do you think like there's only one pie out there and you got to get your slice and you want it to be a big one? Or do you believe there's plenty of pie to go around for everyone? What do you think? What's the mentality that most people right now are living in, including yourself? Well, I think you know. Little hint, toilet paper. That should be a dead giveaway. I think the only abundance that is going on right now is the abundance of fear. And that, I believe, is the real pandemic. How about when it comes to God? Are you tapping into the source that gives so abundantly? 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 23. For you have been born again, not of perishable seed, but of imperishable, through the living and enduring Word of God. Abundance. Like newborn babies crave pure spiritual milk. Crave that abundance, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation now that you've tasted that the Lord is good, that you will experience even more and more abundance in your life. Does that describe you? Are you an abundance thinker? Or are you living in scarcity? Are you missing on what God can and wants to do for you because you're missing Him as the source? Kind of like these guys. Luke 22:66. At daybreak, the council of elders of the people, both the chief priests and the teachers of the law, met together, and Jesus was led before them, and they asked him, "If you are the Messiah," they said, "tell us." And Jesus answered, "If I tell you, you would not believe me, and if I asked you, you would not answer." Here's the weird thing. The ones who should know the abundance of the identity of who Jesus Christ is, the ones who studied the Old Testament, these guys seem to be the ones who are the most ignorant. I mean, why bother with the truth after all? We don't want an intellectual discussion about the Messiah from the Old Testament. We've already formed our verdict against you, Jesus. You're not Messiah. You don't fit our ideas of what Messiah should be. Typically why Jesus avoided the title Messiah, because their ideas of Messiah as Jews, it was fraught with images of being a political and militaristic, violent conqueror. It's not who Jesus was. He didn't fit their ideas of what Messiah should be. Does Jesus fit ours? Right now, are you thinking to yourself, Jesus, you're not really the Messiah. I thought you were. I thought you were going to give me a great last year in high school. I thought I was going to have an amazing graduation. I thought March Madness was just going to go off the hook. I thought I was going to dominate in my sport, and everything just got taken away. Every fun thing you had planned, everything got taken away. And maybe you're thinking right now, hey, Jesus, you are such a disappointment. You know what? That is scarcity thinking. So these religious leaders totally missed. Living in scarcity, they missed this identity, the identity who Jesus really was. So Jesus is thinking to himself, hey, you think if admitting Messiah would be a mistake, how about trying this one on for size? So Jesus goes on to say, but from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the mighty God. They all asked, are you then the Son of God? He replied, you're right in saying I am. Then they said, why do we need any more testimony? We've heard it from his own lips. You know, the Jews never believed that Messiah was actually going to be God, let alone this fake Messiah. And they're thinking there's no possible way a Hume could be God. Sorry, that's a rocket reference from Guardians of the Galaxy. There's no way a Hume could be God. But it just so happens that this Son of Man, another way of saying human, is also Son of God, another way of saying God. But they weren't having it. And because they weren't having it, they missed out on the abundance that he could have done and wanted to do in their life. And so how about us? Are we not having it that Jesus is the Son of God? That he's got this massive power to do so many abundant things in our life, but we're not having it because he just doesn't live up to our expectations. And because of it, we're missing out on the abundance that he can and wants to do for us in our life. And here's the thing. Here's what he wants to do. He wants to save us from our own worst enemy, namely ourselves. Ourselves and our own stubborn scarcity mentality. And he wants to trade it out for an abundance mentality. Here's the thing. Jesus' mentality is crystal clear on the abundance of his identity. He knew clearly who he was. He knew what he had to give. He knew what he was here to do. He knew what his mission was. He knew how abundant it was and how much abundance he had to give. So here's the thing. Is the identity of Jesus Christ, is who Jesus is, getting clearer to you or fuzzier to you? Because your own identity is going to be fuzzy until the identity of who Jesus Christ is in the abundance that he wants to give, in the abundance of who he is, does. You're going to stay in scarcity thinking. Okay? It's so important that you get clear on the identity of who Jesus Christ is. Because being one with Jesus, the fact that you're one with him, the fact you're united with him, the fact you're intimately tied in with who he is, means that your identity is the same as his. Talk about abundance.